Good evening and welcome to another edition of Nigeria Decides 2023. Today we shall be taking a look at the surprises during the Presidential and National Assembly polls. But before then, we will discuss the decision of the Court of Appeal on the reset of Bvas. The Independent National Electoral Commission had earlier said that the reset of the bimodal voter accreditation system, Bvas, must be done before Saturday's governorship and state houses of assembly elections to hold in 28 states across the country. Before then, we commence today's discourse. Here are some of the experts from today's ruling at the courts. Because opposition parties had gone to court to challenge INEC's idea, they won, and INEC went on appeal. Stay tuned while we come up with excerpts from that ruling earlier today.
By Atiku and the PDP, and it was granted by the Court of Appeal. And several orders were granted to have forensic examination of the Bvas, the devices, the backends, and also to have access to all the storage in the cloud, IREVs, the portal, and in addition to having photocopies and scan copies of the ballot papers and all election materials that were used during the 25th February presidential and National Assembly elections. Now, to our greatest surprise and advantage, having worked in the last few days, haven't burnt midnight candle to oppose the application by INEC to vary that order, which we cherish. Somehow, they withdrew the application by themselves. And it was struck out. The question is, what is the implication? What is the legal implication of that withdrawal and eventual striking out of their motion on notice, which brought us to court today? That simply means that the reliefs granted by the court on the 3rd of March 2023 stand.
The court was of the view that they are given the back-end server, which INEC undertook to provide to secure those materials, that order is partly sustained. Those initial orders are partly sustained. But in all, the good news is that the initial order of the court made on the 3rd of March, permitting Peter Gregory Obi and Labour Party to inspect the facilities of INEC, including the Bvas machine, which they intend to use to prove their petition. Those orders are sustained.
Fears of Nigerians is allayed because we're going to conduct governorship election as scheduled by INEC. We have 2 elections on that day: governorship election and state houses assembly election. These are what we are going to conduct on the 11th of March, inshallah. What the application of Peter Obi and Labour Party was that we should be stopped from tampering with the Bvas machine. We now, before they finish the inspection and all those things, our ICT experts deposed to the affidavit that no, reconfiguring the Bvas machine will not tamper with the data contained this, because we are sending the data to our back-end clouds and server. And there was no counter affidavit or further affidavit to controvert what we say. The court has no option than to accept what we are saying as the position of the law and the true position.
Welcome back. This is Nigeria Decides on 2023 on Trust TV. That was the scene today, just after the court ruling on INEC's appeal to allow it reconfigure the bimodal voter accreditation system for the governorship and state houses of assembly elections coming this Saturday. Now, what does that ruling mean? Why was there even an issue on this Bvas in the first place? We will take a few minutes to discuss this issue with our in-house correspondent, law correspondent, Mr. John Chooks, and of course, one of our guests for tonight's program, Honorable Sadiq Abubakar, who was here with us yesterday and who, as we said, has contested election 3 times and in fact went to court also 3 times. You're welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
No lady and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
So you were in that court earlier today when this was happening. Many Nigerians are just hearing Bvas in this issue, but they don't really have an understanding of what the issue is about. What is this case all about in the first place?
Well, the case today has to do with an earlier order of the Court of Appeal on 3rd of March, when the candidates of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, and the Labour Party, Peter Obi, approached the court via an ex parte application seeking for access to sensitive materials that were used for the February 25th presidential and national assembly elections.
Which the court granted.
Which the court granted. Now, INEC then decided to apply to vary those orders. So in effect, INEC was trying to counter what they were requesting for. So INEC also used the opportunity to ask to be allowed to reconfigure the Bvas. So today in court, the court took the INEC's objections and of course reiterated its earlier order that the issue of access to sensitive material stands. But in the case of the Labour Party, the court made a comment that the electronic database cannot be accessed. That is the case of the Labour Party. But if you listen to what the lawyers have said, in the case of Atiku, I don't know what happened. INEC withdrew its application to vary. But that application was standing in the case of Labour Party, but they withdrew it in the case of the PDP and Atiku, which means their own request to even access the electronic Bvas, whether stored in the cloud or in the server on iRev, everything, they will have access, and the court granted it. So we have 2 contradicting orders now, which makes it very, very complex. In the first instance, the court said you cannot have access to any electronic device used, but you can have access to the electronic result sheets, manual result sheets and paper EC8 and the rest of them, but you can't have access to the electronic database. Now they have granted it in the case of...
Thank you very much. This is getting more and more confused. So, Honorable Sadiq, exactly what is at stake between INEC and these 2 opposition parties? Because many Nigerians wonder why the APC is not in this case. So exactly what's happening between the opposition parties and INEC on this matter?
You know, definitely it's a case. I'm not from the expatriates part of notion, but definitely in Nigeria, you know, once an election is lost, the aggrieved are the ones that are always at court. But one thing that is basic in the whole of the argument is that whether it is right to have access to the electronic, the software, which is actually the consumption and inner, like you called it, as it is, it's a sensitive materials, which one of the fears of the INEC that were earlier highlighted. It will interest you to know that INEC have also published their complaint before the 3rd, saying that the fears at which the Bvas or the accessibility to Bvas were, there were tendencies of being hit or being checkmate because they could establish a fact. Yeah, they could establish a fact that INEC submitted a paper also that the people were not talking about it, that there's an attempted 172 times to hack the server from 25th to 26th to 27th.
But that was before the court injunctions. No, now the courts are saying that you allow the opposition party access to any sensitive. I think that's part of the test of an election, for opposition to be able to show in court the same sensitive materials that the electoral empire used, whether those stand up to test or not. I
Yeah,
think that's
obviously,
basic.
but you see, one thing that it's basic as people who are always directly involved in politics, you know that the only thing that gives you the access to electoral field, those results are the ones that my agent, their agent, whoever agent signs is on top. Nobody have access to the Bvas. The configuration that INEC are saying more of, I remembered when the presentation of the Bvas were done, they asked them whether same INEC Bvas could be used for different elections, which most likely are going to be. But I assume that the server, like one of the judges rightly said, that the server, INEC has said that nothing will affect the access to the server, but configuring the server always enable the machine to conduct a new election, but that doesn't in any way affect the result already uploaded.
But Chooks, not many, because this Bvas technology is just becoming so confusing right now. This is the first time it's being used in a general election in the country. It was used in a few off-season elections, 3, 4, here and there, but at the time it didn't attract, general interest of voters. Is the technology, why does it require reconfiguration? Shouldn't it have been possible to configure it for as many elections as possible, even before it was used for the very first election? For example, my phone is configured for any number of phone calls I can make, any number of text messages I can, I don't have to reconfigure it or reconfigure my phone book every time I need to make. What does this reconfigure thing make? What's going on?
INEC is saying that without this reconfiguration, they will not be able to apply it for the next election. It appears the data for the accreditation will be stored up based on what was captured during the first election. They are using the same machine to go into the 28 states and the polling unit and the wards to accredit. So they wouldn't want, perhaps what you said, maybe they needed to expand the space, the storage capacity, because now they are saying we need to wipe out this, but not that it's going to be lost, because in the affidavit, they have averred that all the data will be stored in at the back end of the server, that nothing will be lost. And that is why, like he said, that aspect of fear they expressed, whether people will hacken or to have access to people's biometrics, that INEC said, we don't want to expose all this. Now, the court completely dispelled that fear today by saying that we've never even granted access to any electronic database. What we granted access was the result sheets, the manuals, recordings of the proceedings of that election. So that aspect is dispelled. But the complexity now that arose is in the PDP case, which Honorable S.N. Gazama just mentioned. They made the same requests for Bvas, back-end, IREV.
Yes, and it was granted on the same day.
So,
yes.
Because INEC did not challenge it, because like what Obi's own defense was, the court said in this aspect you did not controvert it, therefore it stands. You could have told us that, oh, if they reconfigure, they will lose some relevant data. You did not controvert it, so that means it stands. In their own case, having withdrawn their objection to the variation, which they made earlier, now whatever Atiku has requested for has been granted by the court, which means Atiku can then go ahead to have access to the Bvas.
So where do we go from here now? Is it possible for the candidates or the political parties to then now move and go to the courts or to challenge the case further? Because this is an appeal court. It's not the last court in Nigeria. And if a case is in appeal court, if somebody is not happy with the verdict, he can still appeal to a further court, which is the Supreme Court.
Yeah, like I said, whenever it's an electoral petition, tribunals and all that, what is built up of, it's the sensitivity of whatever that you're bringing on table. And like I said, if you know what we keep saying since from the beginning, and if we say it till the next thing, every justification of the judge or the court in stepping aside which judgment and taking some judgment has to do with the build-up of the only accessible material that can be determined in court and strike out is not even Bvas. What do the Bvas mean? It's a bimodal verification. So it's a machine that verified whether the number of people who does. But at the end of the day, like we said, we know how Nigerians are. We knew when they brought the budget about this Bvas, and we know how people keep shouting, because if it has gone over, and you talked about the spacing and of the database that are even supposed to be captured so that it shouldn't have to be configured. But normally, you know, this is, I think INEC just want to put themselves in a safer land. One of the safer land is, okay, election on 25th have already been conducted and it has been uploaded. I think to accessible to an extent on a very, when you enter their portal, you get it accessible, the ones that they feel that it's open for you. And what the party is asking is that, what if the INEC justify the fact that, okay, why they are clamoring for that is because they lack the access to hit it at the, because the first query from the collation center was, why wasn't it uploaded as at the time elected? Obviously, whether it is uploaded on that time or not, if the Bvas have captured the number of people and it doesn't go against it, it still call you back to it. But in the end result, INEC will, even the court will have justification to all the judgments that have been done by one, which is the manual sheets that all of the candidates, if my agent did not sign or any of the party's agent did not sign, it's not even become a different case entirely. Barrister, I'm sure I'm on the track that if your agent has signed on a paper and it's also documented, apart from the Bvas that captured the number of verifiable...
The issue is not even about the integrity of the presidential election this time around. The issue is about
accessibility.
Whether or INEC says that the data that it has in the Bvas, which it used for the February 25th election, and it now wants to update that data with the data it needs for the 11 March election, for the governorship and so on. Now, the candidates went to court because they fear, in so doing, INEC might tamper with some of the data that it already has, which they have already been given the go-ahead by the same courts to be able to access in order to prove their accusation that the election had issues in court. Am I correct up to this point? John, this is what the issue is about. It's not contesting the election itself at this point. So INEC now went to court, to the appeal court, to appeal that idea that, we want to be able to use these Bvas for the governorship election. If we are not able to have these Bvas, it will affect the use of electronic devices for
the March 11
for the March 11 elections. But which raises the question that didn't INEC know in the first instance that the elections are two, and because it was INEC that set the dates for February 25. INEC also set the date for March 11. So didn't it know that it is going to have two elections? So could it not have reconfigured the Bvas for the two elections separately, so that it's just like having 2 or 3 accounts? Like your Netflix account, for example. You can have your own account, your son can have, your wife can have, and each one can access their own accounts, and the contents will be different. I don't see how that is technologically impossible before the election. That's the question. I'm trying
even the fear, the so-called fear of hackers, they are sure that they have protection, some form of protection, whether against malware or against any form of attack on the system. So that should not even be the complaint for public consumption, because it's been in the budget that they made the necessary protections towards the conduct of the election. So it's a valid question to ask. What happened to the preparations, prior to the holding of this election that has now been disputed.
Go ahead.
So I'm of the opinion, I'm still of the opinion that what we're saying is still not far from each other. But you know, as a barrister or as a legal expertise, there is no way a court will step aside a judgment that has lesser superior judgment than other, unless if the credibility or the presentations of what the two parties involved brought.
I don't even think they will go to Supreme Court to challenge it.
Obviously,
there's no time.
Because there's no time.
And this is not even the substantive hearing.
Obviously.
They got some, they lost some. What they got can also help. If you have credible evidence, go ahead and use it. You've been granted access to materials.
Obviously.
Those result sheets. And your agents were at the polling units. You don't just have to rely on INEC data. You are actually disputing it. So whatever they present eventually, you present your own original.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I don't think they can, because just 2 days to the general, they can't be going for appeal at this time.
Thank you. So where does this leave the 2015 governorship, I mean the 2023 governorship and state assembly elections now? Because that's the next thing that Nigerians are looking forward to and are expecting.
Now, look, already people are saying that there is already a shadow of doubt about the ability of INEC to be transparent and credible in the whole outcome. They may be, I'm not holding forth for them, but they may be having some honest challenges, but people will have some doubts. That does not mean that people will not come out to vote, but maybe we may not see those figures the way it was. Yeah, people wanted to make a resounding change in our democratic journey, but it appears that may be dashed. So we don't know yet until that Saturday we see the turnout, but there could be some shadow of doubt in the minds of so many people watching INEC at this time.
Thank you very much. So just before we let John go, how do you view that?
On a very sincere note, I believe that every elections at every different level is peculiar, and so also the election partaking. Once there's going to be an election, people will want to, because maybe people are forgetting the numbers. Me, I am of the INEC opinion, like you said, they might be facing a challenge that they don't want to pronounce, but knowing numbers of the House of Assemblies in Nigeria almost is ×3 or almost the numbers of the ones already conducted. So we don't want to also stand in their defense, but they might not come to tell us they can't do it, but what they have to offer is what they seek to. I'm sure if they had additional effort or resource to stand in for the election without configuring, that might not be a case they forwarded. So, but for Nigerians, it's also interested. Once the election is done, everybody will all go for agitating for whatever he thinks he can fight in justifying what he wants and what he thinks his party get. But what is more important, be alert, don't defranchise yourself. When there's an election on Saturday, go vote for people that you believe in their capacity, despite or regardless of their political parties. Make sure that your vote counts and you stand in for what you're waiting for, to agitate to change the life of the general populace of your locality, from the House of Assembly to the governorship.
Okay. While we wait to go into the next segment of the program, we hope that Nigerians will still go ahead and have a wonderful election. Our second guest, Nana Sani Kazore, has just joined us and will be having her for the rest of the show. Please stay with us.
documenting the Nigerian story.
Now, as part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening...
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130.
Created a Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secure are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
Already, if you look at English squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
Welcome back. This is Nigeria Decides 2023, and we are looking at the results and the surprises that they brought to many people, not just the politicians and their parties, but also even the voters that made them happen. Sorry, we apologize for all that technical glitch. It wasn't intended. It is just that we needed to fix A, B, C in our studios. But you're welcome back. So I have with me two guests who represent two of the political parties in the country. I have Nana Sani Kazaure, spokesperson of the Labour Party presidential campaign, and also Honorable Sadiq Abubakar Ayuth, who contested for House of Representatives three times in the FCT constituency here. He is, of course, a member of the APC political party. So it's not, like you were saying, it's not like we're putting Labour Party and APC to fight each other on air. It's just that we want to be able to understand what happened, because there were many surprises. You know, governors not able to even win a senatorial seat, governors not able to deliver their states to their party's presidential candidates, and so on. That has not happened recently in Nigerian elections. So we wanted to have this as part of our discussion. So maybe if I may start from here. So how for the APC, because most of these surprises hit the APC the most. So how does it feel, you know, to be taken out in Lagos, for example, taken out in Kano, and then several other states? How does it feel?
You know, we know, as they said, politics is a game of number. How you randomly play with your numbers is something else. And, you know, at the end of the day, what matters much is what comes to the totality of the numbers you can able to garnish from and across, satisfying the electoral amendments of the 25% in at least 24 states. All of these were in the calculations when we faced the elections. And to be fair to all analysis, all political parties tried all they could, but you know, when you're with the government of the day, regardless of whether you have 100% support or you don't have, you stand in more strategic positions to place your tools. And how many governors you have, as much as people have their variations of belief whether the elections was successful, how did it all go? We knew for Lagos State 2019, if you didn't forget, there was a dragging, the gap between APC and PDP wasn't much. And I've said before now that with the three political parties that emerged going to this general election still, as an APC person who was in the Presidential Campaign Council, we're quite aware of the three most popular political parties, four with the NNPP, were all members of one political party against one. When I said three, Peter Obi, Atiku, and Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, so all of them were of the PDP.
Until even by this time last year, all three were still in the PDP.
Till May last year, before all of them get to move when they feel they don't have the financial muscle to muzzle the primaries, then they go for a party they settle in. Like I've always said, APA, Labour Party to an extent, despite I know the party above just 10 months ago, and I know how they have their footings. Yesterday I was saying, and somebody was even surprised that he never knew that Adams Oshiomhole contested on the Labour Party, obviously as a governor. But yet, it is not the case. The offset, the surprises were there. The Kano elections, nobody was talking about APC from 2 million votes to maybe less than 500 votes.
Yes.
Nobody is talking about losing out Nasarawa, not to PDP, to Labour Party. It was
and to SDP also.
Yeah, obviously for the senatorial. But what we're saying is that the offset that the elections brought about is Labour Party was a movement that would have gone very far, but off the camera, I think Nana Kazaure said something that was very key. Let me just that attention. When she said maybe the president of the day was more like a regional base. Unfortunately true, but this is what I want to tell you. Not even the founding fathers that were called the nationalists. We're more like a regionalist. To all of them, to be fair to all analysis, everybody know Ahmadu Bello was doing the northern region, northern region policy. Wolo was doing the western region. So also Nnamdi Azikiwe. And that is why we stand like a giant with a feet of clay. Unfortunately, that can be wiped out. Obviously, till date, if you do your politics, you don't allow two things consume one party, then you're going to have the same statistic to run up to, because at the end of the day, after the elections, everybody could meet up and come to the conclusion.
Let me bring, because let me bring
Nana
into this.
Let him finish. I would like to hear what he was just about to land.
Yeah,
Allow him
obviously.
land.
I think of all the good things and the movement that Labour Party brought, there was one thing also that gets it heated seriously, and it was sentiments and also both religions, and as much as it gets a momentum in a shorter time. All of the Labour Party have achieved.
They're saying the Labour Party won in caused some of these upsets because of religion.
Yeah, obviously. I can use the state. I'm from FCT. I'm an indigene of FCT. I can tell you precisely we lost out in FCT because they didn't even realize.
But you lost out in 2019 in FCT?
No,
exactly.
to PDP.
Okay.
To PDP, not to Labour Party. But this time around, the indigene who are so more clamoring for indigenization and exclusion or extinction were okay, telling you they are here to vote Laim Bishara. What if you understand that or lie? So they were having this configuration in them that all that we want is this. For unfortunate reasons,
so even the indigenes of
even
FCT,
the indigene end up
they voted for
Labour
Labour Party.
Obviously.
So how do you react to all of this?
My reaction is very simple. The man himself who we campaigned for and who we voted for vehemently never projected himself as such. So if your people feel that way, you should ask yourself the very pertinent questions. What is it that you are not doing right that makes a certain group of people feel that they have been segregated or that they are not properly represented? Those are the very, very pertinent questions. You can't begin to blame it on a candidate that came and said, I'm here to serve you. A candidate that was very, very palatable to women and the youth. You understand? You can't blame that on him. You know, I've heard a few people say, oh, he went to churches. The man is Christian. I don't expect him to come to a mosque to come and do his campaigning there. So when you say that Peter Obi represented something regional, you're very wrong, because he was able to, like you said. In any
case, he will not be the first presidential candidate to go into a church or a mosque.
Exactly.
He had gone to the mosque.
Exactly. He's not going to be the first, nor will he ever be the last. So I would like for people to understand very clearly that Peter Obi's emergence as the preferred candidate for Nigerians was never on a basis of him being from, and he would say something that always made me proud. He would say, I'm an Igbo man, a proud Igbo man, but I'm here to serve in Nigeria in my capacity, and I'm running for presidency through you. So it didn't matter your age, your tribe, your creed. What mattered was that he was presenting himself with his capability, his competence, his track record. We must never forget his track record, and the man that he is as a person and even as a politician. And that is why we came in with such a strong force. Whether or not they allocated to us 6.1 plus million, and I use that word allocated.
I would take you up on that. Yeah,
you understand? He still emerged as a winner, because nobody expected 4 people tweeting in a room to come up with 6.1 plus million votes.
Maybe we can look at the specifics. The biggest of all upsets in this election, of course, if we were asked to answer, give the answer secretly, chances are that all 3 of us here, or all 10 of us in a room will have the same answer, which is Lagos, right?
Lagos.
You know, because Lagos is the heart of
the commercial heart.
You know, is the not just commercial, or is the political
bedrock.
What do you call capital of the Tinubu empire? You know, this is where he was governor since 1999. Since that time, he has also been instrumental, or if not a decider on who becomes the governor of that state since then. In fact, some of the people who worked for him in 1999 are the ones who have worked as governors, as key personnel up till today around him. So what happened that he lost that state to a party that even you said that until a few months ago, even some of your friends did not even know about?
We're 9 months. Yeah. So we're entering our 10th month this March.
Yes, So what happened, Lagos?
To be honest, like I said, if you want to take Lagos and every capital or municipality of the world, you have the composition of people that are more cosmopolitan in nature. By implication, they are not justification to why. The case of Lagos isn't different from that case of Abuja, where from 1996 we can even have an Igbo chairperson in the name of Vivian Anazado. Obviously, for those records, they are people that when you come to the city centers of the world, like you go to Enfield in London, the mayor, it's an Igbo lady, Abimbola, who's also an MP. So any of the municipality of the world you take, there is a knowledge of the numbers of compositions and whether they are satisfied to go. And to an extent, it brings me back to her allocations claims. And I think if it's an allocation, we wouldn't have allowed ourselves to be malign to and way in Lagos.
You wouldn't want that embarrassment.
At least we would have wanted to save ourselves. But obviously, I even remember
to the point where you couldn't.
Even before Tinubu, even before the Tinubu, in 2019, you could remember, obviously, it was on the tele that some part of the Igbo voting strength were denounced when we was running as a DPT to Atiku at the last election in 2019, were denied access to elections. This time around, there was a very, very open warning. And I think, when they said everybody that tried to do anything shitty will get a bloody nose, the military were very straight on that issue. And for the first time in Nigeria, that I can proudly say, there wasn't vote buying. So influencers of Nigerian politics to an extent was vote buying is one. But what I said was, when Nana still took me back, she borrowed word to say, I didn't say of Obi. I was saying of the Labour Party movement and what constitutes the Labour Party. I never took candidate to be
the candidate personally.
Obviously, because it's a movement that comprises, like I said, the hope. It's a movement that if it was well intended.
So is it the same religious
when you say if it was well intended, I don't understand what you mean.
I mean well intended.
Yes,
before she responds, I want to be, when I said well intended.
You've spoken for like 5 minutes.
I'd like for him to clarify if the movement was well intended.
Well intended. It's a movement.
That's an indictment. Please clarify that.
No, when I said well intended, because when I said of religion and I said it, you counter it contrarily. I said it's a movement that have gotten momentum on a very sincere note. I think I said this, Suleiman, even yesterday, that it was, but the only thing that hit it was because it came to the level where campaigns were taken to place of worship. And that was the wrongest move of it.
When I said,
it's expressive, and you could say the same, go against me. For the Muslim candidates, all of them were even on contradictory level. When you see the one for Atiku is not, the one for Kwankwaso is accusing the two or condemning the two. The one, but for him it was straight. Not even when Circular went on mismanagement.
So do you think that explains how we won Lagos?
No, for Lagos to an extent, I said something that was open for Lagos. I said because of its cosmopolitan nature, you will still pick more of Igbo people in the pocketholes of Lagos than even the Yoruba.
So how did you win Lagos?
It's wrong, and I told you, Labour Party came as a breath of genuine fresh air for Nigerians. Labour Party and our mandate, everything that we stand for, represented a new Nigeria, and that's why one of our mantra was very simple: a new Nigeria is possible. We were not there to do anything religiously, and I really laugh, and it's tragic when you see people who are supposed to be the seasoned politicians watering down the tempo and the feelings and the temperature of Nigerian politics, and they just want to always, that's what has kept us divided. When people want to bring in religion into the matter, when people also want to bring in tribe into the matter. But you see, in the Labour Party,
the man actually went to campaign in several churches.
And at no point in time,
Go ahead.
At no point in time was he now there to to campaign. He was there in a place of worship, and if people recognized him and called him up to speak he will. And that was that's one thing I always admired about His Excellency Peter Obi. I still will call him that because he's my choice for the president, and I'm entitled to my choice.
Yes.
Now, one thing that he did was he always gave audience. He would never shied away from town halls. He didn't think that anybody was beneath him not to engage with those people. He was very, very accessible. And if you now see that as him going to churches, that was where he got an audience. No, please. You have to stop. We have to stop this thing where everything has to have a religious connotation or has to have a tribal or an ethnic underlaying of hate and bigotry. It has to stop. If we want our country to progress, if we want our politics to progress, and that's the reason why you could see that those videos came out from Lagos where people were being threatened. If you're not going to vote for the APC,
so how did Labour Party win? What message did it sell differently from what had always been on ground? How did it mobilize at least 10,000 more votes than did the ruling party in the state?
10,000 more votes that we know were doctored. Even the PDP themselves came out to say that the votes that came in for the Labour Party were well over 900,000, and that the APC got just about 100,000.
The problem with such statements is that we will require,
and that's why we've gone to court. Don't tell us that it lacks no substance. But then that now brings me
on a very sincere,
every time
when you keep trying
let me intervene.
Every time he had his moment.
Exactly.
And I
so
do
you
not
allow
understand
her to,
why.
But let me intervene.
That's the APC way. They will not let you speak, and then they will still come and
very interesting. The issue is this, Ba. If we say that.
But that's why we are in court. Let me finish what I was trying to say.
Okay, go ahead,
and that's why we went to court, to say we want to have access, to be able to see directly from the Bvas what the numbers are. Look at the case in Oshun. Oshun, there was something else that was brought, and by the time it was looked into and the Bvas were used, the numbers did not tally. And that's what we're up against, and we're saying we don't want a repeat performance. Let us have access. Let us be able to see. If you have nothing to hide, what are you reconfiguring? That is the million-dollar question that Nigerians are hoping that we'll get an answer. And then what the Court of Appeal now says is, let them go ahead and reconfigure. Why? When we know, they claim that nothing will be lost. That's the same way we were promised that there would be transmission in real time. That never happened. That's why we're here. That's why we're at this upset now.
He tried to explain the defeat of the APC in Lagos to the cosmopolitanism.
And I wish he left it at the cosmopolitan nature of Lagos and not go around saying it's because there's a large Igbo population. Other people voted. There's somebody from Kogi State who took over, who won National Assembly over Banky W.
Yes, I was coming to that.
Exactly. So for you to just want to pin it on a particular tribe and stereotype them is totally wrong, and that is why. Excuse me. Yes, but that's what it is. Maybe when you replay what we're talking about, you understand where I'm coming from, because it's happening in real time. You probably are feeling I'm coming at you, but that's not it. When you say that, it's because I really appreciated it when you talked about the cosmopolitan nature of cities and their city centers and what it is they represent. But when you now went again and now said it, that's where it just went quang, quang, quang. It just went downhill from there for me.
Okay.
Obviously,
excuse me. Let me, maybe we move away a little from Lagos, and come to Kano, because they say all politics is local, isn't it? And so even though you have APC and PDP, and Labour Party squaring up in Lagos, it was APC and another party. This time around, NNPP squaring up in Kano. And there too, they were upset, So the NNPP ended up winning the state, and with a wide margin. In fact, the widest of all margins in the entire election was recorded in Kano between NNPP and APC, but also between APC and the third, which is the PDP, you know, and so on. So what happened in Kano?
To be honest and to be sincere to process, like you said, politics is local. So whatever we are analyzing, we want to know that, okay, whoever Kwankwaso is also a household name in Kano, that himself, the least of what he will want to do is, at least I want to show I own Kano, even if he keep dragging. Like I said, I'm being sincere, not just because I was analyzing Obi. He too was good in his campaign, but to be honest, he was more housed in the northern Nigeria than he even seek for support all over Nigeria. But yet, where his strong base was more of Kano, because he was trying to prove a point to the governor that I still own Kano. So the crisis was...
So it was all local?
It was local, and it was localized to the extent that everybody knows that. Even he wants to prove that the election of Saturday gubernatorial may be hotter than this, because this is a shared place of fight where you have Shaban Sharada, who was also an APC person. You have the Gauna, who was also an APC person. And you have an Abba, who is a current deputy. And you have Abba Gida, who from last election till date, if you fear to him, you know that the judgment and the conclusions of the elections were not totally the replica of it, regardless of what the announcements are. He was a household name that Abba Gida too has.
Are you saying that as an APC person you believe that Abba won the election because he was in the PDP?
I was saying his popularity, and we're talking of being a household name. Gauna is one person also in the midst of the contestants that have worked with different 3 to 4 governors in Kano State, which is to say, upon the crack they have between the governors, he still retained and is one of the most cool-headed person. But whether that's relations and affiliation that he have with Ganduje and also Abbas elections or presidential election will translate into it is another thing entirely. But it's a closely contested elections that we know, even though the Labour Party had choose to support the APC, the gubernatorial candidate in Lagos, in the elections presidential. So we don't know if that
is no longer that Engineer Bashir is no longer with the Labour Party. He made that clear, and he decamped to the APC. So personally, I would be, if I was to vote in Kano State, I will also be going to vote for Rabiu Kwankwaso, because I've listened to him. I've listened to him in the town halls. I've listened a lot of the time. I can mirror him and what my own candidate. And they're younger, they're fresher. They come with good ideas.
Feel that maybe because what you are saying is relevant to the question that I'm going to ask. That's why I thought maybe I can just come up with it. At early in the 2 campaigns, because most Nigerians would think it is the Kwankwaso campaign and the Peter Obi campaign that were really the major difference in the 2 campaigns. They are the 2 parties that represented the third force for many Nigerians, you know. And at some point in the campaign, there were talks about a merger or some cooperation or some working together. Do you now regret that did not happen? Because Kwankwaso had 1.4 million votes. That would have really made a difference for your party, wouldn't it?
Last year, I was on another channel, and I did have this conversation, and I went there, and I said, if anybody else, I would have loved for there to be a merger, but then it didn't happen. And one thing I did learn from my principal is we don't cry over spilt milk. We move ahead. You've got to have a strategy, a plan B and a plan C. And so when that didn't happen, we didn't cry over spilt milk. While we admire him, while we admire his antecedents, and we know that he's a great man, we moved on. And you can see from the results that, like I said, was allocated, you can see the marked difference between who was placed as 3rd and who was placed as 4th. You can see the marked difference. So it didn't really matter at the end of the day, because on our own, we did amazing. We did swimmingly well. And everybody that voted for the Labour Party is a winner.
Thank you. One of the places where you did well to move away again from Kano you know. But just to go back to Kano, the APC still did significantly better than the PDP also in Kano. You know, what explains that? You know, because the difference between the APC candidate and the PDP candidate is just about 1.8 million votes. Between Kano and Lagos alone, they explain about 1 million of these 1.8 million votes. So that's significant. How do you? There's no PDP person here to speak for his party, but how do you?
Obviously, but we're being plain in analysis. I think she can help you. Ask of a party whom I told you is the elder brother of all political parties, despite APC is half its years in comparison, but they have this thing here. So in whatever analysis you
do, still the senior party.
It's still the senior party in the country, and it's still, like yesterday I told you, substantially it has a more structure, more people. Rotating old wine in new bottles doesn't change the content of the wine, obviously. And all of the people that have dished out to be in APC and all that have an origin and basis in PDP. So in any analysis we're doing, we always give that fact and justification to where origin of most politicians comes, just like I said. Kanu, like I said, is the politics of individualism. Yesterday, when Madam Tracy was trying to make something, I told you that when Aminu Kano said, in Nipu said, until Nigeria will know no peace until son of nobody becomes somebody without knowing anyone.
That's Peter Obi.
No, it was Aminu Kano quotes actually in Nipu.
Okay, yes.
Obviously. So, but if it was actually from that place in Nipu, and that was in the same content of the red cap concept, is Kwankwaso's continuation to build on that legacy. Obviously, people know that Aminu Kano is a house.
But Aminu Kano's message actually went beyond Kano.
Oh, it did, actually.
Because they won in PRP and in NEPU, they won elections beyond Kano State.
And when you look at it, the Labour Party is the one that has shown that the child of nobody doesn't need. Yes. Even in Kaduna State, you can see where it's an Okada rider. You can call it that time and chance happened to him, but it happened to him because he chose the ticket that he chose. He would never have had such an opportunity with the two Siamese twins, as we love to call them, PDAPC. He would never have had that opportunity. So the Labour Party gave the opportunity, even for people such as myself, who I might not be young in my age, I always say, but I'm a young politician, gave the platform for us to have a voice, for us to be able to speak boldly, and for us to be able to say, this is what we want for our country, and this is how we would like for it to go. I haven't seen, for example, today is, International Women's Day, and thank you, you didn't congratulate me, both of you. But it's okay.
We've had programs on that.
But there's a woman here now. It would have been nice for it to have been acknowledged today on the celebration.
But go ahead, yes.
Anyways, so like I was saying, when you look at it, we're in the 10th Assembly, and so far for the Senate, we just have 3 seats. So what has the PDAPC done? In my head, what I'm looking at is, there's been a huge nosedive, a huge decline, which doesn't speak very well for the Siamese twins. Because when we took back our country and had a democracy reintroduced to us in 1999, that time we had over 20 women, I think about 22. And at the end of the day, now we're talking.
But none of the 3
single digits
senators that Labour Party has, which one of them is a woman?
Hello, Senator-elect Mrs. Ireti Kingibe.
Okay, I see.
Hello. And that's huge. That's huge for us to be the new kids on the block. Yes. I remember right here in this same studio, right in that corner, I was with I forget his name now, and he's my best friend in this station. But then I did Mala Hamza, and I asked him, and I said to him, APC is unaware of the turbocharged rocket that is about to change their status quo. And that's exactly what has happened now. You know, he did say that when you are the incumbent, I paraphrase, when you're in the incumbent, it's easy for you to be able to put things in place and blah, 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 blah. And that's what they've used against us even today. And they're telling us they want to reconfigure the Bvas. That is a raw nerve. As far, well, like you said, you are the incumbent. And so you have them in your pocket. And so when you look at Nigerians,
control INEC.
Judiciary,
you see, that's it. I've always said one thing every time. We have strong men and not strong institutions. That's what has played out now. That's what has played out. That INEC has shown us that she's just independent in name. She's not independent in the way you want to give Nigerians a credible, free and fair election. As at the time, I've always held Professor Yakubu Mahmood in very, very high regard.
So what changed?
This has changed.
Because
No, hear me. It's not, don't say that. This is what made it change. No. I have my reasons. Please allow me to explain. The reason is just one very simple thing. Professor Yakub Mahmood he's a great orator. He's very great at communication. You can listen to him all day. He's very articulate. You know what he's saying, and you can tell that he's somebody who's astute and extremely brilliant. So what happened? As at the time that there was no transmission going on, what you promised Nigerians, November 2022, over and over and over again. When there was a glitch, why didn't you stop? Why didn't you pause? Why didn't you do what democracy should do? Why did you become comatose? Why didn't you listen? Why didn't you just call a press briefing and say, you know what?
They continue with the manual
You can't continue with the manual process. That's not what Nigerians were promised. That's being comatose to the digital process. And that is what we're questioning now. The process is, why do you think it's okay to just continue without saying to the same people that you told we're going to be transmitting in real time? Why didn't you give a pause and say, you know what? This is the situation. We have to do things differently. Nigerians, in general, irrespective of whatever party they choose to support, I think Nigerians are highly intelligent people and we are a very understanding country. I give examples of, like, you know, Nigeria is burning, but because of the sort of people that we are, Nigeria isn't burnt. We haven't been consumed yet by all the errors and dismal failure of the APC.
Like the
when you said dismal failure, you see now you hit it directly. I think I should be allowed to say, when she said dismal failure, I told her that I'm not a Nigerian of just 10 months. And I've been in the political corridor for as long as I want to be. And you talked about not being young. I think I showed you yesterday the history is back down to in my 18, 19, and I'm already 41.
Okay.
With all sincerity, and I think even when you're trying to take it personal, I still want to remind you that not even in Berlin conference.
Taking it personal.
Even when in Berlin conference, when Nnamdi Azikiwe told Ahmadu Bello, let's forget our difference and make Nigeria one. Ahmadu Bello said, no, let's know our difference and make Nigeria a better one.
Understand
obviously, from that background and trajectory, we still don't go away. Whether we're saying it openly because we're painting a Nigerian of our dreams, or we're saying it differently. I could remember in ABU that I have to either identify myself as an MSS candidate or the Christian Fellowship to be a student union activist. And it interests you to know that we change the narrative because we feel like the science, they say politics is a game of numbers, and I think it's my timing. But what if these numbers are used ignorantly or sentimentally, which is the process at which that was in school politics in a more ideal situation of about 22,000 students, and yet we're coming to a larger population where people don't even know what they feed them at manifestos. And she's saying of Nigeria that we know, their blueprint.
You see, I like that he said that.
Their blueprint, but you said this.
When you say people don't know what they're fed by their manifestos, the Labour Party and Peter Obi and his team, we came and changed that narrative. We even kept it really simple, things that you guys couldn't have done in the last 22, 23 years. He came and broke it. When I'm talking about the Siamese twin, the PDAPC.
Thank you.
But you see, Peter Obi came and just said something very simple. He came and said it very simple.
Was he different? He was there.
That's why when you look at his track record,
what
when he was president, when he was governor in Bvas, you look at it differently.
To bring it to
no.
One of these track records, some people would say that he was initially in ABGA,
yes,
and then he went to PDP, and
is
then
he not
from
allowed?
PDP
Is there anything?
Is
there anything?
No, some people would say that
I talk about his
that
track
is
record as
consistent.
governor, 8 years. In his 8 years in Anambra.
We can spell them out, my sister.
But let's move away from
track
that.
record.
Honorable.
He is not track enough to keep it.
Let's go to Nasarawa.
What do you mean by he's not track record? He
can we
doesn't
look
have
at
track record to keep it. And he was able to galvanize in 10 months.
Honorable.
Nigerians.
He couldn't conduct election in 7 years.
It's on camera. Don't point
fingers.
I
mean, he couldn't. I was just saying he couldn't conduct elections, local government election in 7 years.
There was a reason to that.
But I am in charge. Can we all agree that I am in charge of the program?
You are in charge, but let's get that clear.
Can I move us away from here? Can I move us away from here?
Okay, let's move away.
So let's go to what's it called? It's interesting that what do you call Labour Party and APC? People expected that it is APC and PDP that should fill this, because in most cases, in many of the senior APC people feel they actually love Labour Party. They love Labour Party because, let me finish, they love Labour Party because as far as they are concerned, Labour Party did damage to, no, not just about that, but they did damage to the PDP
than us.
You know, and so on. So maybe I'm not expecting to see tempers rise between APC and Labour Party. You would expect more of that between PDP and APC or Labour Party and APC, but it's fine. Can we look at Nasarawa State, where you have a whole new party, not NNPP, not PDP, not Labour Party, and certainly not APC, winning 2 senatorial seats in the state. That is the Social Democratic Party, probably the oldest or one of the oldest, second oldest party after the PRP in the country. So what happened in Nasarawa State in particular?
That is the Nigerian people that I was talking about. Those people who are intelligent, those people who have said enough is enough from these Hydra twins, who have said enough is enough. And what we want is what we will go for. Right now, what Nigerians were now doing, they weren't going for parties, they were going for the individuals that they felt would deliver. The individuals that were coming to them with the capacity, with competence and credibility, and the will and the tenacity to serve them. Because it just goes to show that there's lethargy. When I looked at the total numbers of collated votes, it was quite low. It hasn't ever happened in Nigeria before. It goes to show you that people are just tired. You know, people are just tired of these. Of the APC was glaring. A good number of Nigerians.
That's one point that was missed in this election, precisely because of what he mentioned earlier, that the opposition was split. The votes of the NNPP presidential candidate, the Labour Party presidential candidate, the PDP presidential candidates, these 3 votes amount to some 15 million votes. If you had that
Buhari once had 15 million.
If you had that in one box against Tinubu's 8.7 million, the difference would have been too glaring. And then the message would have been delivered to Nigerians that Nigerians are tired of APC. But as it were now, those votes were split into 3.
It doesn't negate the fact. It doesn't.
Let her finish. I'll come back to you.
It doesn't negate the fact that there's a tiring of the Nigerian people of the APC.
But the votes don't show that. Because the opposition is divided.
I don't agree with you. Just because those, as you say, were divided does not mean that Nigerians are not saying something. I think 8 million votes of a country of over 200 million people. Let's even not talk about the number of 200 people. Let's talk about the number of registered voters, about 90 plus million people, and 8 million is what you can muster. That is a very strong message from Nigerians.
Interesting. You wanted to respond?
Yeah, actually, because I think the take was, let's not get it, forget it. I think we have been hitting state. And when it comes to Nasarawa State, she just said it, but let me say it out of the experience and knowing what is in Nasara that you're talking about. Obviously, for Wadada, like I said, the peculiarity of every person tells of it. You will forget that Gaza, who is the representative of Ndakaru, has always been in the house for almost 15 years, if not more. And also Wadada that we're talking was a PDP House of Representative. And he has also, in Nasarawa.
Nasarawa.
Wadada,
Gaza is from
obviously,
Nasarawa.
and also that Godia Kwashiki was also
in the same. As well.
Okay, so when you take off these numbers, they were denied in the process that maybe because there was a chairman who feels that they are not worth the ticket, and there were a crisis in the ticket. So obviously they were trying to prove a point, which they did.
But Godia in particular actually defeated the national chairman of the party, who was once a two-term governor of the state. That should surprise everyone.
Yeah, but that is what we're saying.
Except you're living under a rock.
It's not surprising. It's when you have caused an issue in the electoral management. The same thing happened during primaries. Yeah, obviously, the same thing happened when Adams Oshomole was in Edo. Maybe people are not remembering. And the same thing happens again when Abdullah Adamu wants to take, by all means, define who becomes, and he is not the most popular candidate. Wadada was also in the elections, in the primaries, in APC, not in SDP. Gaza was also in. Godia Akwashiki was also in APC. They only left as an option to prove that, yes, we have our people. And it's local politics. Even Al-Makura that was in the house that wanted to be the national champ was defeated. All of this
he was defeated by the PDP.
Yeah, obviously. But the shift of the two zone where more like you can plant evil in the region where you stay. You've been here as a senatorial West, Nasarawa senatorial West, representative senatorial. Then you are now moving, or you want to bring people that you want. We don't want your people. We want Wadada. Wadada was the DG of the campaign. Not even the ASLE wanted his candidature as a senator, but yet what played out is different. So when you're calling people, the peculiarity of those determine the result. But what even surprises was instilled in that when they were doing Senate, because they were the elections that go hand in hand with the Labour Party. Labour Party tend to win the presidential in the state.
Yes.
Which is to tell you that...
Which is another dimension into it, because you have several parties each having its own share of the vote at different levels of the election.
And that's what I already said, that the Nigerian people have become more aware.
The Labour Party won the presidential election, but did not win any senatorial seat, did not even win any House of Reps seat, which is quite surprising.
Obviously.
But won the presidential election in the state.
We didn't have as many candidates coming out for certain offices. So you can excuse us there. In our 10 months, we did well. Yes, I know that in Nasarawa State we had representation. But then again, like I said, people have become more politically astute. People have become more politically understanding of who it is that they want. And that is what democracy is about. That's the beauty of democracy. Where you will have a problem with Nigerians is where you now think you can come and truncate that knowledge, that coming of that, that coming into their own, of their political voice. And that's where even today, I don't know if we should be celebrating for the Nigerian woman, because we're supposed to be talking about equity, not equality. People tend to make mistakes between what is equality and what is equity. Equity is just something in very lay terms. If there's the opportunity for children to go to school and there are 10, then girls should have equal representation. They should be able to go to school. If there are scholarships that are presented to students, for example, women, girls, because Nigeria of today, after the 23 years of the democracy that we've had, it's tragic to find out that Nigeria is at the bottom when it comes to health. Child mortality and maternal mortality, we are the highest. And that is an indictment on these people who just think, and that's what Nigerians are now beginning to say, no, we're not voting parties now. We're going to listen to you and we're going to hold you responsible. That's one thing that, another thing that the breath of fresh air that the Labour Party brought to the table. Even our candidate will always tell you, hold me responsible if I don't do X, Y, Z. And that is what Nigerians are saying. We will hold those we elect into office, we will hold them responsible. It's not happened before, where the people themselves, even now, Labour Party, we are the ones going to the judiciary. It's not about the person who represented, it's now about the people.
In anticipation of today as the International Women's Day, we dedicated all of yesterday's program to women in politics. Fortunately, he was here. But it's also important, some of these issues you are pointing out.
Yes, it is.
Particularly because your party represents and presents itself as a third way, doing things differently. But if we go back to Nasarawa State again, because you are having a governorship election just next week.
Saturday.
On Saturday, I mean, a few days away from now. Where does that leave the APC? Because the sitting governor is a first-time governor who is
seeking a re-election
in that state. And now you have two senators. That means they are taking 2/3 because it's the people who vote for senators.
The question that I have is, no, don't worry, I'm not going to. I have another, for both of you now.
Feel free, yes.
Permit me to just anchor this one. The question I have now is, as the courts have said, the Court of Appeal has said, go right ahead and reconfigure. But I remember INEC saying it needs 5 days to be able to do that. That means, are they saying that it won't hold? The gubernatorial elections won't hold if they need 5 days to be able to sort it out and ensure that, because
there are not 5 days
what is most important to us is that no information in the Bvas is lost.
Obviously.
That is critical. So the 5 days that they're asking for, today is already Wednesday, I'm wondering.
They have it inclusive. The days are counted with the days from today to the day of the election, which is actually 5 days if you see. So they have the 5 days to achieve that, unless if you
something they couldn't achieve with 406 billion
because for me that raises the question of why they didn't reconfigure it.
I'm just wondering.
That's kind of sloppy.
Why? We
Very
sloppy.
Sorry, 406 billion.
We cannot answer on behalf of INEC.
Thank you. That is it.
But we all use technology, right? So, and INEC people did not manufacture Bvas technology.
Obviously.
They brought it from somewhere. So it's possible for anyone to be familiar with Bvas technology before INEC adopts it in Nigeria. It's not nuclear physics, It is just like I tried to explain earlier, that you can have different accounts you can store different things on the same computer. Isn't it? And the Bvas is a computer. So it goes back again, maybe some sloppiness, or I don't know how to explain it, somewhere. But the topic for today is the surprises that happened during the election. So I would always try to drag us back to those issues. So, Honorable Sadiq, where does that leave the APC in Nasarawa State?
On a very sincere note, I think when addressing what was the issue and how it got split up and why the SDP could come up, it leaves us with either whether there is going to be a blind romance within the same SDP, and like I said, Wadada was the DG for the campaign that brought AA Slay to the governance. Whether he got the support from the governor or not, whether they are going to align now.
But he's moved to a different party.
Yeah, obviously, but
so
in Nigeria,
that's an indication
in Nigeria, a pocket romance is allowed, which is known to win an election. You can have a romance just like she told of Bashir.
But if the romance existed, why would he leave the party?
No, because he is not the party chairman to give him the ticket in the party he wanted to become. So that keeps him in the light.
So the problem may be between him and
the party, Abdullahi Adamu,
rather than between him and the governor.
Obviously. Okay. So if these are the case, you still have that belief. If it was a Labour Party, we just know that we're out of the election. Or if it is PDP, but obviously we knew that they have a good relationship that they have maintained. And in winning election at the state level, it's just like what happened in Benue. So if you bring in the issue of Benue, you still wonder why Otom lost. But obviously it's because of who is the gubernatorial candidate that the people of Benue are contented with and okay with. And is the one that played out other people, including the ones that are on Susan and Otom, who is a governor wanting to become a senator and lost out. Obviously, is to tell you that the local politics, the content of the politics locally. You could remember yesterday when Engineer Roslyn Change was talking. I still said that fact that the local politics, and I think Tracy aligned with herself, like apart from what you give to people, you need to know what is your political strength, how you need to cut across the local government, what wins their politics locally, and at the end of the day, what defines our move. But I'm still coming on the fact that we are in a very porous position in the country, that if we believe that the movement or whatever we're taking that is serious and directional, we must have a content in whatever movement that we do, so that what unites us make us stronger than what divides us. Because they said if our content of...
Are you also calling for alliance with the Labour Party people?
It's not just it's not just a Labour Party. I've always finding their message attractive? I've always said one thing before now. I said the content of what Nana Kazauri have and what Sadiq have and what Malam Suleiman have to do with collectivism, because a tree can never make a forest. When she said of exceptional being, we've seen where people strive in an engineer. And yesterday, we're very critical when I told you I'm a town planner, I'm not a honorable, because honorable, it's the highest level of respect a white man gives you. He is an honorable personality. But as a town planner, we could always analyze things technically and know that we can operate without the love of ourselves. I think what we have lost basically, and allow it become very, very porous in us, is the influence of vendors in the name of God.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for staying with us, viewers. Please note that you are also welcome to this discussion. Our phone lines will be opening very soon, and then through them you can make your contribution, you can make your voice heard, you can ask your questions, and we will try to get back to you. Stay tuned as we continue with this discussion. So the part of the issues, if we move away from, because I'm looking at the map of the upsets in the country, like I can see the map. We move from Nasara, we enter into Kaduna State, where there is a governor, an APC governor, who some people describe as, likes to talk, Nasser El-Rufai, and so on. And yet, he did not deliver his state. Not only did he not deliver his state, PDP won in the state, even having lost over 200,000 votes to the Labour Party in the same Kaduna State. And then, so what happened in Kaduna? Is it the mystification of Nasser El-Rufai? Is the PDP and Labour Party out to show that you're not electorally strong, or what really happened in Kaduna, in your opinion?
In my opinion, what happened in Kaduna State is a reflection of what's happening all over Nigeria, the awakening, the knowledge that your vote is your power, and the knowledge that the power lies with the people. It's just that.
I think we have a caller from Yobe. Yes, please tell us your name and where you're calling from, and then make your contribution or ask a question.
Yes, my name is Yusuf Galadima.
Okay, Yarima from Yobe, go ahead, please. From Damaturu, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Good evening, sir. And
you're welcome.
So my just advice is Top TV is doing wonderful. Thank you for that. And I just want to maybe say something for advice. We should call at least now that the studio and the media, the direct know about Bvas. What was called? Legally, whether the the so it is a collection center or in Abuja or let us all the two lawyers. So there is a very desired law which was passed by the National Assembly about the electric law in Nigeria. Let us discuss about it. No. Let us know whether we are to pass the law, the result from 2 minutes. Also, the electric center, please thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Yarima, for calling. The network was cracking, and we didn't get him too clearly in the studio. Thank you. So you were saying something about what happened in Kaduna, so that we can continue.
Yeah, it's just a reflection of the minds of the people of Kaduna State, which is very admirable, because you can tell that there were more women, there were more youth who were now very involved and wanted to be part of the process of ushering in a new order, if you will. And so I think that's what happened in Kaduna State. And they had, Kaduna State had always been a PDP state. You know, they usually tend to vote in favor of the PDP. So I think the Labour Party coming on board also got people's attention.
But the APC won in 2015 and 2019.
Yes, I know. I don't doubt any of that. But then when you sit down with a lot of people from, especially those from Kaduna South, you'll find that they are more inclined toward the PDP. And so I think what just happened was that people, like I've said, for PDP to take, well, in the presidential, for PDP to have taken over Kaduna State, it shows that there's something going on. I think Kaduna State, there's been a lot of development, there's been a lot of growth, but the people of Kaduna State are quite disgruntled with a lot of things, which I think the governor has not been able to balance properly. That when I say the governor,
a lot of things like what?
I don't live in Kaduna.
Okay.
I don't know what those details are. But then I do know that there's a lot of detachment between himself and the people from the southern part of Kaduna. So let's talk about
but the loss
those
could not have been the south, because the southern part of Kaduna, the Labour Party got over 290,000 votes from there. The PDP, the APC lost in the other two senatorial districts still by nearly 150,000 votes. So it is not southern Kaduna alone that can explain the defeat of the APC in Kaduna State, you know. But maybe before you speak, we have a caller from Katsina. Yes, go ahead and tell us your name and then ask your question or make your contribution.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening to your guest.
Good evening.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. I'm Sally. I'm calling from Katsina.
Thank you, Sani. Go ahead, please.
Okay. I just have like 5 points to make.
Okay.
And I'll just make them brief, which majorly has to do with the obedient family. Like your guest, which is, I think, in the obedient, the OB factions.
The obedients are also Nigerians, anyway. Go ahead.
Okay. Earlier, I heard talking about performance of OB when he was a governor.
Yes.
As far as I'm concerned, or as far as Nigerians are concerned, OB does not have any performance to be relied on. That is one.
Okay.
Two, the kind of politics that OB played in this last general election was totally a disaster. Because the kind of politics he played was a kind of a pure tribal and religious politics. And that particular politics that he played long time, it will be very difficult to erase the image it has already created, especially before the northern part. Then when you talk of spread of votes, it doesn't even have the spread of votes in the north. So I don't even see where they are even claiming the victory from. Then let's go to opportunities before now. There was a video of late Sir Ahmad Bello that I heard today. And when he was talking about the characters and the kind of persons that you have as an evil person. If you give them a little opportunity, they try to overthrow you. Now, even chances. There is no how you are going to play politics of Nigeria without involving the northern part of it. It's not possible. You can't move. So now, when Buhari was contesting at the first time, he took, I think,
Sadi, I think we can respond to the issues that you have raised at this point. You can call back again, or you can stay in the line. But I think you have said quite enough that we would like to respond to, if that's okay with you. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, Sani. That was Sani from Katsina, and it was interesting that you were noting many of the things that he was saying.
Just a few. The rest of it, I consider it to be irrelevant. Okay. But the one thing I would like to say to Mr. Sani that lives in Katsina State is he should understand that he's entitled, it's his opinion, and he's entitled to it. And like I say, that's the beauty of democracy. It's not the reality of things. You cannot say that Peter Obi was being regional. He canvassed the whole 36 states. He went there to campaign. We had our rallies. He visited many northern states. Katsina, he visited Bauchi, he visited Gombe. Is Taraba State no more in northern Nigeria, or is Borno State now in Cameroon? Or are we going to say that Jigawa State, where I'm from, where I hosted and I was proud to welcome them and the Labour Party, are we going to say that they're not part of? He was in Kaduna State, he was in Katsina State, he canvassed every single northern state. We were in Nasarawa State, we were in Plateau State, we were in Benue, we were in Kogi. We went as far as the geographical mapping
what was the
of Nigeria.
Message did you sell?
Our message was that a new Nigeria is possible. Our message, and it was very clear, Peter Obi's message was very clear for northern Nigeria, and that is one of the things that endeared me to him. His message was that the vast arable lands of northern Nigeria would be the oil of our country, would be the wealth of our country. People cannot say they didn't hear that. This particular man, I believe, I could be wrong, I think he's a tribalistic person, and that's why he wants to come along those arguments. If you were following the man's track record, if you were following his team, you would know that we canvassed and we did all that we could humanly possibly do in 10 months, of which I can say 23 years PDAPC have not been able to do. Rather, the North has been more impoverished and has been neglected in these 23 years. It has always just been a power and politics game. But in terms of whether or not our educational system has improved, please correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me if our security has improved in northern Nigeria. Tell me if children are able to go to school in safety in northern Nigeria, or people are able to travel by rail. Have we forgotten so quickly those things that hit Nigeria and Nigerians hard? So for him to say that, has he ever been to Anambra State to say that Peter Obi did not have the antecedents that he did? This was one man that when he was governor, he had a 40% women participation. This man built over 900 kilometers of road connecting markets in his state. The educational system in Anambra State rose from 23rd to 1st in a period of about 4.5 years. That is showing a good track record and somebody that has focus and a good head on his shoulder for governance. So I don't, Mr. Sani, thank you for calling.
It's interesting how you responded to this. But Tinubu's response was that...
Forgive me, there was something when I said I don't live in Kaduna, it just dawned on me, the question that you asked me, the matters of security. Those people from the Kaduna South especially feel that their lives and property have not been secured. Yet have not been secured. So that's one of their grouses. It just popped in my head when we were talking.
You were trying to make a point.
You wanted to, yes.
But obviously, it's her questions and it was directed to her.
10 months versus 23 years.
Excuse me.
We did exceptionally well, and I'm proud.
When you keep saying PDAPC,
I will remind you of I am proud later.
Before that, I want to also remind her, I think the last time you did what you did, I still ask you that PDAPC, Obi was not left out of the 23 years you're counting. Obviously, they have their scorecard, and their scorecard is there for everybody to do. And at the other time, I was saying it in rage. The first denial of bad governance in the assessment of any governor that have ruled for 1 year is whether he leave or he denies people of the third-tier government, which is the local government elections. That alone, on that footings, is why a lot of good analysts will tell you a government that is absent of chairmanship or conducting a chairmanship election for 7 years plus is not worth of assessing because it disjointed the people.
We have an interesting guest, Muhammad from Oka in Anambra State. Thank you for joining us on Nigeria Decides. Muhammad, we lost. Please try to call again because we would like the views of people over there in Anambra on this show tonight. Yeah. Try to call, keep trying. We're here until you get us.
Generalization, yes, where we're generalizing process of where we are and the doom that Nigeria is a gradual process of an accumulation of whatever that we blame the system. We're totally uninterested in the life that we're finding ourselves and where we're going to find ourselves in. That alone, it's the mere reasons and where we are at the moment, trying to gather ourselves, but in the same sentimentally way that our leaders or the forefathers or the people that fought, that we call nationalists, that I personally feel they are more regionalist. We're not far from it. And as much as we keep analyzing, if we remove the sentiments and go to our rooms and sit down because we're facing TV, the God who created me and where I'm going to lie, I know that I was a victim of someone who had contested. I can personally say whatever that I'm saying is not out of sentiment or out of my gluedness to the APC, but I choose to be consistent with where I am, and my principles are known, are also presented for people to know, to assess and see if I am worthy it. I'm just 41. I'm sure in the next trial I should have a better.
We also have a new caller, Muhammad from Bida in Niger State. Yes, go ahead, Muhammad. Welcome to Nigeria Decides. Yes, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I'm truly excited to. I say I'm excited to be able to reach you today.
Okay, we are excited to have you here with us.
Yeah, good. I think the guy from Katela captured the essence of this obedience phenomenon. You know, every follower of the political system can, effectively situate this phenomenon as strictly an ethnocentric and religiously divisive movement. And there's hardly all this hype about something he has done in 10 months. They are all,
Mohammed, Mohammed, if I may come in just a moment to ask you a question. Yeah. This was the same thing that was said of Buhari again and again and again during his many contests in 2003, in 2007, and 2011. And true, the states he won were also predominantly Muslim states as well. So some people would say that what you are accusing Peter of being now is not exactly something new, because it has always happened in Nigerian politics. People have always appealed to those Nigerians that look closest and feel and believe closest to them, and that Peter Obi is not the first person to do it in Nigerian politics. How do you respond to that?
Okay, of course I can easily respond to that. That's why I was saying the Obi phenomenon was overhyped.
Okay.
As you rightly pointed out, Buhari, for 4 consecutive elections, was carrying along his 12 million sectional vote, but he never delivered them to the dealer until he was able to connect across the Niger and was able to get the support and alliance with Tinubu and Co. to form the APC.
Interesting.
That was what delivered them. So if anybody, based on that, we expected that lessons would have been learned by the OBA group, and then rather than repeat the same mistake that somebody has done and abandoned, there's no need to invent the wheel. Why do you have to go through a route that has led someone to a cul-de-sac and you expect to be able to reach your destination?
Thank you, Muhammad. Thank you very much.
That's the point I'm making. And of course, even his records in Anambra, apart from what she stated, party was supposed to have, skyrocketed under him. 10 was insecurity. The only thing he was supposed to have said to have done was to have said money, which was filtered away by his hand-picked successor. So the hype is always, it's essentially ethnocentric. The Igbos feel this is their turn.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. He said something that why is Peter Obi following a path that has led somebody to a cul-de-sac?
Like I already responded. I had already responded with that, and I will not be rehashing.
We have just a few more minutes.
I already said it very, very clearly. You must have been living under a rock during the campaigns, or because he wasn't your preferred candidate, you chose not to look and see beyond your nose. A lot of Nigerians, and this last caller, I say and I put it to him, he was just cutting off his nose just because he wants to spite his face. When you look at security, the IG of police was even the one that said, Assistant IG of Police at that time, said that security had improved in the state. Now, if you haven't been to Anambra State, if you didn't go there when he was governor, then I don't think you really have the credibility to be able, and the details to be able to talk about it, other than he just wasn't your candidate, which is very, very understandable. And I'm very thankful that you mentioned, that was what I said in the beginning, that I never paid attention to our president, Buhari, until when he was better represented, when it was clear that he was no longer being a regional candidate. I said that off camera. So you should know that I have the gumption and I have the presence of mind not to follow a man who is clannish or regionally inclined. I already said that off camera. So for you to now want to come and lay that thick on me is wrong, because the reason I campaigned for him was I saw him differently, the same way that I saw Buhari 8 years ago.
Thank you. Actually, it's not me laying it on you. It's a discussion. So on. So how this is just about the final comment we're making. So if you can be quick. Are you expecting the same surprises in the governorship election as we had in the presidential election?
One thing that is certain in Nigeria is that with this election, like I said, it was free from vote buying to an extent. There were a lot of free and fair, if not the most free and fairest election Nigeria have recorded. And I pray that people's mandate will be given and also actually actualized, because we're talking of the also second-tier government in states where the State House of Assembly, where they make bylaws and laws for the states, and also the governor who takes charge of the state. And hopefully that everybody that is coming on board, like I keep saying something, I'm a serious ambassador of the local government autonomy. No state governor should come with that mindset of having a transition government. Let them allow the flow of the democracy reach the third tier of government. Please.
Thank you. So, Nana, are you expecting, what are your expectations for Labour Party in the governorship elections? Are you expecting more upsets or less than you did?
Of course, I'm positive I'm positive about the results for the Labour Party, because we don't have very many candidates, but where it is that we have, we believe that we are strong and we expect to win. We are winners at the Labour Party. Everybody who earns a legitimate income is already a member of the Labour Party.
Thank you very much.
So make your votes count.
Thank you. It's been quite an interesting, sometimes heated evening, but also a rewarding evening, because we've had a quite engaging discussion. I would like to thank you,
how much time had passed.
Hajia Nana Kazaure, for being here with us. We hope to have you on this show or other of our political programs in the coming weeks and months. Also, thank you very much, Honorable Sadiq.
Thank you for
Bakar, for coming on the show. We hope that one day we'll be addressing you as Honorable for sure, as you join them in the National Assembly. Thank you, our viewers, for staying with us. It has been a roller coaster of a program today, and we hope that you are well served. We also, more than that, we hope you will join us tomorrow again when we bring you another edition of Nigeria Decides 2023 on Trust TV. I am Suleiman. Good night.